The early 1980s brought the voice of Denise Estopinal to KTIB News. Let's hear how her start here led to other opportunities. Denise Estopinal, how are you today?
I'm fine. I appreciate you calling, and I appreciate any opportunity to talk about my days in Thibodeau, which I remember very fondly.
Well, let's start from the beginning. Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from New Orleans and graduated from LSU in journalism and found myself a couple of months after graduation in Thibodeau at my first job at KTIB.
Dare I ask, what year was that?
Oh, my goodness, 1981. November 1981.
How long did you stay here?
I stayed about 3 years. And I got great experience. Did the public affairs program Dialogue. In addition to my news direct duties, learned a great deal about government, covering the Lafourche Parish Council, and also municipal government, covering the city of Thibodeau and Thibodeau municipal government.
Now, when you joined KTIB, how did you first get linked up with the station?
Well, I answered actually an ad in the paper, which was, and I had to go to Homer and interview with Mr. Rady. And that's how I came to KTIB, and thereafter, I believe I interviewed with Marie Bergeron and Roy Pugh.
All righty. Well, let's talk about a little bit about the people you just mentioned. Mr. Sadie, of course, being the owner of KTIB and KHOM at the time. How was it working with him?
Oh, it was wonderful. He was great in the business. He knew a lot. And he gave great direction, and he also allowed folks to sort of go out on their own. You know, broadcasting is a very creative business, and he allowed us all to sort of rise to our level and be challenged, and it was really a great experience working with him.
Now, of course, everybody to this day knows Marie Bergeron from, I guess it was 45 years she worked in local broadcasting. She must have been one heck of a person to work for.
She was not only one heck of a person to work for, but she was just a great friend. Marie adopted everyone who came to KTIB as her own, and she is a lovely human being, and there were many, many times when I had dinners and other functions with her family, with her family, and she just adopted all the young reporters, and it was wonderful working with her.
Now, you also mentioned Roy Pugh, who a lot of us will also remember from the world of sports as well, so he must have been pretty good as well.
He was, and he was a great, Roy never took himself very seriously, and he never allowed any of us to do so. He was charming and just affable, a great teacher, and, he loved his community, and also he worked really hard with his family and with the community. I know he was in various organizations like Marie in Thibodeau, and in addition to their, regular family duties and their duties at the radio station, they did a tremendous amount for the community.
Now, I believe another gentleman who worked there at the time, I think he at one time was programming director, Jimmy Cole.
Jimmy was just fun to work with, had a lot of knowledge of the area. He originally, I believe, was from Homer, and he knew a lot of folks in the area, and when we were covering news or having to get information, I can remember that he was very helpful, and we were like a family at KTIB. It was a lot of young reporters and young broadcasters, and we were, many of us, away from our families, and so KTIB was our family.
Another gentleman that worked at the station at the time, who I believe originally was a native of Oklahoma, Joe Wall. Joe
was a great friend and a really excellent radio guy. He has a beautiful voice, just absolutely beautiful voice. and he had great timing, and he was another one who just was very laid back. And I think that being an announcer on the air, you really need to be flexible. And he really had that sort of heart that also came through.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'd like to ask you about another gentleman you may not have thought about quite a while, because when he started at KTIB during your tenure, he was just a teenager. And since then, he's moved on to work in Nashville. Brian Landrum.
Right. I knew him slightly, and he was also he's great to work with, and you could tell that he had a bright future ahead of him.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Now, there's one gentleman I have to ask you about who a lot of us remember from a lot of Cajun music on the weekends, Leroy Martin.
Oh, Leroy, yes. He was a great guy. I remember he had such a joy for life and for life on the bayou. And he was very, very talented and, just enormously generous to the young people. And I remember his son, Perry, who was also very talented and is still out there doing plays and other related entertainment venues.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you're at KTIB, was Les Domain also here?
Yeah. Stop Shop?
Yes.
The Stop Shop, yeah. It was fun. He sure was. And he had a great following. I mean, folks just loved the Stop Shop. I mean, they just loved it.
Mm-hmm, very much so. Now, in your tenure at KTIB following news, were there any stories that seemed to stand out in your tenure here?
Well, I think there were. Well, of course, politics dominated in those days, and as it does now. I remember the sheriff, Duffy Blow, and then Tardo was parish president, and he had defeated, while I was there, he defeated Dick Egley, who was from, as I remember, from South Lafourche. I remember the city of Thibodeau and Juan Harang, and also John Snyder, I believe, was the mayor, also when I was there. And I remember fondly David Bellon, the city attorney. He's now deceased, but he was a good friend, and his father, George. And they were wonderful people. They were city engineers. Not city attorneys, city engineers. And so there was a lot of really fun stories, and very often the governor, whoever the governor was at the time, would come through Thibodeau. I remember we had Dave Treen, and we also had, during my tenure, and we had, of course, Governor Edwards. So we weren't without news. We had train derailments and those sorts of big stories where all the New Orleans media would come to town.
Of course, I also remember around that time the Schriever Overpass collapse.
Right.
And the other one I remember very vividly, because a lot of us got off school that day, was poison water scare.
Right.
So many stories, I'm sure, that we could go off forever to talk about. But it's good to know that even though you're a little bit removed from our station, your memories seem to be really pleasant and vivid of Thibodeau.
Oh, yes. I have many friends there that live along the bayou still. I don't see them often, but I do think about them very much. I formed some wonderful friendships with folks who worked at the Daily Comet, and some of those folks I'm still friends with today. And I run into people fairly often, and I read the names of folks in that area in Lafourche and Terrebonne, and I think about that fondly as some very important early time in my career.
Well, when you left KTIB, where did you go from there?
I went into television. I went to Central Louisiana and worked in television, and I did that for about 6 or 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole time I was a reporter, about 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Before you go on, which station did you work at in Alexandria?
KTIB-AM.
I understand today that you're still keeping busy, correct?
I am. I have my own public relations firm following my days in the news business. I went into government, public relations, and public affairs, and I worked for the mayor of New Orleans, Mark Morial, and I worked for the United States courts. And about 3 years ago, I formed my own public relations firm, and I represent various clients around the state, elected officials, and recently just finished being a part of a successful campaign for our governor-elect, Kathleen Babineau-Blanco.
All right. Does that mean now you're going to be second in command?
No, but I'll be doing anything that the governor-elect asks me to.
Anyway, well, listen, Denise, we appreciate your time. And before we head out, is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners?
Well, I'd just like to say that I love the Bayou Country. I love Thibodaux and Lafourche Parish, and it will always hold a very important place in my heart. And I believe the people along the Bayou are the very, very best in the world.
Denise Estopinal, a sound voice for a sound provider of local news and information.